Have you ever wondered what it would be like to share your home with someone from a different generation? Maybe you've thought about inviting a grandchild to stay for a while, or perhaps you've considered opening your home to a younger roommate. Most people don't realize how much the little moments of togetherness can shape our days, our health, and even our sense of purpose. Today, let's gently explore the benefits and challenges of intergenerational living, what it means to share your space, your stories, and your life with someone who might see the world a little differently than you do. When I think about my own experience, I remember how quiet my home felt after the kids had grown and moved on. The days were peaceful, but sometimes a little too peaceful. It wasn't until my niece came to stay for a few months that I realized just how much I'd missed the energy and laughter that younger people bring. There were times when the house felt full of life again, times when I learned something new just by listening to her stories, and times when we both laughed at the same silly joke. But it wasn't always easy. There were moments of misunderstanding, moments when our routines clashed, and moments when I had to remind myself to be patient. And yet, looking back, I wouldn't trade that time for anything. It taught me so much about connection, about flexibility, and about the quiet joy of sharing your space with someone who sees things a little differently. So let's start by talking about one of the biggest gifts that intergenerational living can bring: companionship. When you share your home with someone from a younger generation, you're never truly alone. There's always someone to talk to, someone to share a meal with, or even just someone to sit quietly beside. For many of us, especially as we get older, that sense of companionship can make all the difference. It's not just about having someone to help with practical things, though that can be a real blessing. It's about feeling seen and heard, about knowing that you matter to someone else. I remember how my niece would sometimes surprise me with a cup of tea in the afternoon, or how she'd ask about my day and really listen to my answer. Those small acts of kindness reminded me that I was still important, still valued, and still part of something bigger than myself. Now, let's talk about another beautiful aspect of intergenerational living: learning from each other. When you live with someone from a different generation, you have the chance to share your wisdom and, just as importantly, to learn from theirs. My niece taught me how to use new technology, how to find music I'd never heard before, and how to see the world through a younger person's eyes. In return, I shared stories from my own life, recipes that had been in our family for generations, and little pieces of advice that I'd picked up along the way. It was a two-way street, a gentle exchange of ideas and experiences that enriched both of our lives. I found myself feeling more curious, more open-minded, and even a little younger at heart. And I think that's something we all crave, no matter our age: the chance to grow, to learn, and to feel connected to the world around us. As you settle into the rhythm of sharing your home with someone from a different generation, you might notice some changes in your daily routine, some expected, some surprising. Maybe you find yourself waking up a little earlier or staying up a bit later just to catch a few more moments of conversation. Or perhaps you start to notice new music drifting through the house, or the smell of a different kind of food cooking in the kitchen. These small shifts can feel strange at first, but they also bring a sense of newness and possibility. It's like opening a window in a room that's been closed for a while, letting in fresh air and sunlight, and reminding you that life is always changing, always moving forward. One of the most meaningful changes for me was the way my home became a place of shared memories. When my niece was with me, we started new traditions like Friday night movie nights or Sunday morning breakfast where we talk about our plans for the week. These rituals gave our days structure and warmth, and they helped us both feel more grounded. Even the simple act of setting the table together or sharing a cup of tea at the end of the day became moments to look forward to. And when she moved on, those traditions stayed with me, reminding me of the time we'd shared and the bond we'd built. Of course, living with someone from a different generation isn't always easy. There are moments when your routines don't quite match up, or when you find yourself needing a little more quiet than your housemate does. Maybe you prefer a peaceful evening at home while they're excited to invite friends over. Or perhaps you have certain ways of doing things that feel comfortable and familiar while they have their own ideas. These differences can lead to misunderstandings, but they can also be opportunities for growth, if you're willing to talk openly and listen with an open heart. I remember one evening when my niece asked if she could have a few friends over for dinner. At first, I felt a little nervous. Would it be too noisy? Would I feel out of place? But I decided to give it a try. And to my surprise, I ended up enjoying myself. The house was full of laughter and conversation, and I found myself feeling more connected to the younger generation than I had in years. It was a gentle reminder that stepping out of my comfort zone, even just a little, could bring unexpected joy. Another challenge, and in a way a blessing, is the chance to learn how to communicate across generations. Younger people often have different ways of expressing themselves, different priorities, and different ideas about what's important. Sometimes it can feel like you're speaking different languages. But if you take the time to listen, to ask questions, and to share your own perspective with kindness, you'll find that understanding is possible. I learned to be more patient, to explain my needs without judgment, and to appreciate the ways my niece saw the world. In return, she learned to be more considerate of my routines and my need for quiet time. It was a give and take that made our home a happier, more harmonious place. As our time together draws to a close, I want to share a few more gentle thoughts about what intergenerational living can teach us, about ourselves, about connection, and about the quiet strength that comes from sharing our lives with others. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was how much we all have to give, no matter our age. Sometimes we worry that we're not needed as much as we used to be, or that our stories and experiences don't matter as much to the younger generation. But living with someone from a different age group reminded me that wisdom is timeless, and that kindness, patience, and a listening ear are gifts we can always offer. There were moments when my niece would come to me for advice about relationships, about work, or just about life in general. And in those moments, I realized that my years of experience really did matter, that my perspective was valuable, and that I still had so much to share. At the same time, I was reminded that learning is a lifelong journey. My niece's curiosity and energy inspire me to try new things, to ask questions, and to stay open to change. It was a beautiful reminder that we're never too old to grow, to adapt, and to find joy in the unexpected. Another thing I noticed was how much intergenerational living helped me feel less alone in the world. There's something deeply comforting about knowing that someone else is nearby, whether it's a grandchild, a younger friend, or even a roommate you've just met. Even when we weren't talking, just knowing that someone else was in the house made it feel warmer, safer, and more alive. And on the days when I felt a little down or uncertain, my niece's presence was a gentle reminder that I was still part of something bigger, a family, a community, a shared story. Of course, not every day was perfect. There were moments of frustration, moments when we needed space, and moments when we had to work through misunderstandings. But those challenges were part of what made our time together so meaningful. They taught me patience, flexibility, and the importance of honest communication. They reminded me that relationships, like life itself, are always evolving, and that the best way forward is with an open heart and a willingness to grow. As you think about your own life, I invite you to reflect on the people who have shared your home, your stories, and your journey. Maybe you've already experienced intergenerational living, or maybe you're just beginning to consider it. Either way, remember that every connection, big or small, has the power to bring comfort, growth, and joy. If this video offered you comfort or insight, please consider sharing it with someone who might need a little hope today. And if you're not sure how to subscribe, ask someone to help you do it. We'd love to have you here. Let's keep the conversation going. Tell me in the comments, what's helped you feel more connected or supported lately? Your story might inspire someone else.